The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
I'm amazed that I have as much power.
Hello, welcome to the Great Disruptor podcast. I am your host, as always, Paul Athoe, and today's guest has a big brain, okay? She studied and got her law degree from Syracuse University. She recently took the bar exam and is waiting for her results to come back in October or November. And despite myself knowing absolutely nothing about what that test entails, I'm confident she's going to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, Carly Cross.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for coming. You're the one that gets the thank yous. We're here to give you your flowers. You know,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we just we asked you to come and you showed up, and like I tell everybody, you bet on us to present you the way you deserve to be presented, and we pride ourselves on doing that. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I will tell you, and lead with this. I think it's healed enough now that I might be pointing it out more than hiding it, telling the audience. But I took a box to the face the other day. So my daughter and I think we were driving in her brush, fell under the seat, in the back seat, right? And so when we got home, we were in the back seat and we're digging around trying to find this, and there was a box of, I forget what was in it. Oh, we had just bought cowboy boots because she started horseback riding lessons. So we had just bought these, overly fashionable for riding a horse cowboy boots that she had to have. And while she's looking for a brush, she just kind of straight armed the box, and my head was like down, caught it right on the side of the face. So I told her, I said, kid, Dad's got to record a podcast on camera in like 2 days, and I'm pretty sure you just gave me a face for radio. so that happened. I told her I was going to tell the guests I got in a fight. It might sound a little bit cooler. Does that sound cooler to you?
No, man versus box sounds cool.
Man versus box it is. No shame in my game. No shame in my game. So that's what happened. Talked about how you went to Syracuse University for law. How long were you in college for before you graduated and could take the bar exam?
So for undergrad, I was there for 3.5 years at Medaille. Rest in peace. It's no longer open.
That's right.
But then I went to Syracuse, and that took 3 years as well. So in total, it would be almost 7 years of post-high school education.
It's a fraction of your life.
Yeah.
Wow. Medaille had the trickiest entrance ever.
Yes,
and like the most inconvenient. It was essentially a throughway exit to get to school.
It literally is the Skidjackwada Expressway.
Yeah. I dated a girl that dormed there back in when I was 21, 22, and I just remember there's no room for error. You miss that thing and you got to go to the next exit, turn around. Very little room for error, but yeah, good memories from that school. I know lots of people that went there actually. Yeah. But why did it close? It did close.
So Trocare, which is still open, they were involved in a deal. They were going to buy them, and I don't know what fell apart behind the scenes, but they backed out last minute, and so Medaille, I guess, was left with no funding to stay open. It's
wild that it can cost that much to go there.
Yes.
And then you can't stay afloat somehow. Weird. Interesting. What do they do with it? Any idea? Is it just empty now, or what is it used for?
I think a charter school is using it right now. Would make sense. So at least it's not sitting completely vacant.
Yeah, it's a big campus. Cool. It's incredible. So you're waiting for your test results.
Yes.
I used to work for a financial planning firm, and the district headquarters was in Syracuse, right down the road from Syracuse U. So I spent 3 weeks there for training. They had me hoteled up, but quarterly. So 4 times a year or so, I would go to Syracuse for these meetings, spend a day there. So I'm a little familiar with the area in Syracuse. What was your experience like there, and what are some of your greatest memories from having spent this much time in school?
So I definitely prefer Buffalo to Syracuse, and that's why I came back and did an internship here during my whole third year. But I think looking back on it, it's a place I remember more fondly than probably I felt about it at the time, actually being in it.
Sure.
It's a big undergrad party school for sure. So being there for law school, you got to be very disciplined, and there's a lot of things going on. If you can't just go out of the sporting events and go out every weekend because you're not there as an undergrad. You're there to, become a lawyer one day. So it took a little discipline in the beginning, I think.
Yeah, of course, especially being that young to have no choice but to discipline yourself or burn the tens of thousands of dollars it was probably costing you to go there. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of thinking about this now, like it's got to be the biggest college sports campus that we have within an X amount of hour radius, right? Between their football and more so their basketball, right? But their football and basketball programs are huge.
Mm-hmm.
Former national champions, Carmelo Anthony's homeschool.
Yes.
You remember Carmelo?
Yes.
Okay.
He goes there a lot.
Yeah. I think his son is there now, if I'm not mistaken.
They were definitely recruiting him. I
Of
remember
course,
hearing
yeah,
about
of
that.
course,
But
yeah.
that would be cool if he ended up there.
Melo was like the mascot at this point. He's got to be, one of the top athletes to ever come out of there. Yeah, he was very much my era too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. So while you're there, or after you graduate, I'm sure you have to do some sort of internship. What did that look like?
So I did a lot of different internships while I was in law school because I'm someone who definitely, I think, learns more by watching and doing as opposed to just, sitting in like the 2-hour lectures. That's not really my vibe. And
it's not very human
No.
to
Like,
pick up on it that way.
Yeah, the Socratic method, it's not my friend. But I did a few different internships with different prosecutorial agencies. I did one with an investment bank. I learned that I'm not good at Excel sheets, so that was good to find out sooner rather than later.
Sure.
I did an internship with a judge. I absolutely loved that.
Wow. Yeah.
So, a lot of different experiences, being able to get my hands on different things. And now looking back on it, I'm like, I'm 25. I'm relatively still young, and it's like, it feels crazy what I've done.
Yeah, right. I agree. As just looking in from the outside here, it is incredible. Looking at what a judge does, like they play God. That's a crazy job to have.
Mm-hmm.
So when you dabbled in these different areas, like moving forward, do you know what part of law like you want to be in?
Generally, yeah. So I started with a litigation firm in Buffalo after I took the bar exam, and for those that don't know, litigation is essentially, that means you're in court more often than not. So I know that I love being in court. Whether it's for criminal or civil, I just love that environment. A lot of my classmates, don't feel the same. There's like a whole other world of transactional law where you can do like real estate and contracts and such, and that's great, but I don't foresee myself going down that route. Sometimes being in the courtroom is like being in the movies, and it's as cool as it sounds. Sometimes not, but
that is, I mean, you sound super spicy to me, saying I love to be in court. Like I've been to court. I would never tell anybody I love to be in court, but you're on a different end of it, and that's wild. And I can see, why. There's kind of a reason why you fell into the seat here today, and it's like you're kind of comfortable in the uncomfortable. So that's a really impressive and really valuable skill. Like I think, looking at things, I think because I'm in sales, and I think being able to talk is so crucial. It's such a crucial life skill that it can kind of camouflage or hide any deficit. If you can talk, it can really hide any deficit you may have, and it can get you into places. I looked at jobs and applied for jobs and got into jobs that I had no business getting. But if you can talk, it can kind of do like, do I have the X year degree? No, but let me get in front of you and tell you why I think I still can.
Yeah.
And I might be able to turn the table a little bit. So that's exciting that you actually have like a kind of like a rush for these uncomfortable situations, and I think that's how you move the needle on life, and have done all the things you just said you did, and how you said when you kind of step back and look at it, it's like, wow, I've really done all this by such a young age. But if you didn't have that sense of let me be uncomfortable, then I don't think that happens. So I think that's a humongous skill to have. It's impressive.
Going into it, I would not say I knew how to talk or like address even a classroom going into law school, but I do remember during our first year, second semester, we took like a legal research and writing course, and one of the big assignments was the end of the semester oral argument that you know, argue what you wrote in your brief. Mm-hmm. And to prep for it, we did like a mock oral argument, and it was just funny stuff. Yeah. And so I was involved in one that was bear versus gorilla. Ooh, and I
love
was
this.
For the bear.
Yeah.
And I absolutely think I
feel like I would love this class. I often tell my girlfriend that I feel like I was a lawyer or an attorney in a different, I say this about like 3-4 different things, but I always say, I feel like I could have been an attorney in a different life.
Anyone can be.
But I'm not good at test taking, so I don't mean to sleep on any of the skills that are required. I just feel like I kind of am similar to you in that I can sit in these uncomfortable situations and kind of navigate my way through it. Mm-hmm. But gorilla versus bear, and you took bear. That's wild.
Yes.
You mentioned, what was this? What class was this?
It was like our legal research and writing class.
You mentioned like the word oral in there. Where did that tie in the title here?
Sorry, so oral argument.
Okay, yes, yeah. That's right. That's because you made me think of something. So I was at Villa Maria for music business, circa late 2000s, like so 2009, 2010-ish. And I remember I went in there, and it's like I don't know if the Catholic is the word. It's like a mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like some of the teachers are nuns, right? I don't know if that's how they identify themselves, right? But so I went in, and like I had one of their, you know, resources, one of their counselors or whatever, like helping me build out my schedule. Mm-hmm. And she's walking me through the classes I have to select. And I was like, no, this was more like right out of high school. So this is like 2006, 2007, because I was like 18, 19. And she's walking, I've never experienced this before. I've never gone to a college before. And she's walking me through the classes I can select. And one of them was like fundamentals of oral skills. And I wrote it out ORAL. And it's supposed to be AURAL. Like, so she just like, even as a nun, I can hear her over my shoulder. She did the, and I didn't even know the mistake I made. And she's like, it's AURAL. I was like, okay, you know. A little spiciness for but so all right, so you get through school, and then you finally take the bar exam. Is this like the moment in your life, like you're on your hero's journey, this is everything you ever wanted, this is the culmination of all the time and money it must have taken to get this education? Was that moment for you?
Well, not having the results yet still gives me a lot of anxiety, and I will say it's in New York at least, it's 2 days, and on the first day it's a bunch of essays and like inter-office memorandum things. Wow. And the next day it's 200 multiple choice. Wow. And the first day I got 3 hours of sleep, and I had a killer migraine, so I was like in the bathroom taking ibuprofen and stuff because I didn't want to disturb people while I was like rattling around with the Ziploc baggie. It's also like insane because what you're allowed to bring in, they're like, you can't have highlighters, you can't have pens, you can only have like a number 2 pencil, no mechanical pencils. I felt like I was like turning myself in to like do time when I went into that test. Yeah. It was they had like the sheriffs out on their horses out front.
Wow, yeah.
I was like, Jeez. What am I walking into?
Yeah, that sounds intense. I mean, testing like that is like, sure, it can be necessary, like in instances like this, but it's so unnatural, right? Like, it's like 200 multiple choice questions, and yes. It's like it doesn't pertain to any, you know, filling in bubbles. Like, doesn't pertain to any life skill. It's so unnatural.
No, every attorney I've ever met has said the same thing, and it's this test has no bearing on how well you will practice as an attorney or how you will do in life. Like, it literally has no bearing. And they're changing it now in 2026, I believe. Yeah. They're selected like a control group. Like, they wanted us all to sign up for this thing they're doing in October. That's like we're gonna be guinea pigs essentially. So if you get selected, like, it's the next generation bar exam. Ooh. And it's essentially like shorter, more time per question. They're cutting certain things out, like certain subjects, and I really think it should be abolished as a whole, because if you go to school for 3 years...
Let's start the protest right now, right here.
Oh, the protest has been started. But you go to school for 3 years, you work your ass off, you get like 4 hours of sleep every night, you show that you can do all that, you pass probably 15 to 20 law school exams. You do the internships, you succeed in them, and it's like, you could do it, but you have to just find out how to test well on this one exam.
Like a whole different skill outside of everything you just studied,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean the headaches. That's that's your body reacting to the stress and pressure that's been put on you. But yeah, I mean, just ties into that discomfort we keep falling back on of being able to persevere through that, and I guess kind of to continue elevating yourself in life. That you got to kind of walk through those fires and put your mind and body through those stress and pressures to get there. So how you feeling about your test results? You confident?
Well, we're supposed to get them like late October, early November. I try not to think about it much until then because it's out of my hands. It's in God's hands, or the universe's hands. But they always say if you walk out and you feel like you could have gotten everything wrong, then you very well probably passed, and that's how I feel.
Okay.
But there's just no way of predicting it.
Yeah. It's funny you say God or the universe's hands. I often say the same exact combination. Like I believe in both, but I'm not sure which one dictates my future.
Maybe it's in nobody's hands. Maybe it's in their legs.
Nice. So this doesn't pertain to you, but what happens when somebody doesn't pass? What is there? I imagine, is there like a waiting period or a fee associated with retaking it? Like what happens?
There's always fees for retaking
everything. Has to be monetized.
Everything has a fee, and there's like fees to the fees. But yeah, it's typically only offered in July and February, so you would get your results back. You would have to study over Christmas and New Year's and my birthday in January if I have to retake it again. But I mean, you could take the year and take it the following July too, I guess, just depending on your circumstances. But most of us are like in the situation where we got to start paying back on our student loans. So we would be like working while we're studying for it again.
Of course.
So yeah, you get like as far as I know in New York, as many shots as you need. But yeah.
Are there like practice tests, or is that like illegal for this type of test?
It's so funny that you mentioned that because the actual questions are by the NCBE. It's like the National Conference of Board Examiners, and they're so weird about like not releasing the full 6 essays or like a 100 or 200 like run of the actual questions. You can purchase them, and I did purchase some, but there's all these like bar exam companies that are fighting with each other for your money. And then when you get one of them, come to find out it's not even like the multiple choice questions that have been on the exam in the past. It's just these weird like regurgitated things that very well could not be preparing you for it. So it's kind of like, I don't know if I would call it a monopoly. It's they're weird about releasing the actual tests, which like it makes you think they don't want you to succeed, because why would I not practice on a real practice test? Right.
Nice. Well, I wish you and anyone else waiting on their test results the best.
Thank you.
Took me 3 test attempts to get my life and health insurance certification. Probably a fraction of the difficulty this is. Also took me 3 attempts to get my driver's license, so no shame in my game here. You guys are incredible. Keep shooting, all right?
What happened on the 2 first driving exams?
Oh, just, you have to over-exaggerate. Like, you have to, like, sell what you're doing. So, like, you can't just be like, oh, nothing there. You got to be like...
full 180.
You got to put full performance, right? So, I don't know. I think I just over-exaggerated everything. And, yeah, we got there. I drove myself here today, proud to say. So, so here we are. But I remember like there was a period of time when I was moving into finance, and the first firm I was with wanted me to have 3 licenses. And like the first one which was supposed to be the easiest, took me 3 tries. And then, but studying for the investment stock market exam, like I would never want to repeat that time of my life. Like, that's just not my space. Like taking in, and I think also like I wasn't interested in it. Like it was a box I needed to check for the credentials.
Right.
But as far as like, of course I should know what it is, how it works. But like once I landed this firm, like they have actual experts. Like, so if I bring over investment money, I just tell the company, hey, I brought this over, and then they give it to those guys to put it, to allocate it, right? It's not like I'm individually allocating their dollars. But this test, yeah, I mean, it was a beast. The one time I got like a 32 on it, which was pretty demoralizing because they were paying me to study for it. But yeah, it was difficult. Tests are not my forte by any means.
Is it like the Series 7 exams?
Bingo.
Yeah, I have a friend studying for those right now.
It sucks so bad. But don't get me wrong. There's people that walk in there with minimal studying and knock it out. Like, so it just depends on the person. But yeah, it was not my space. And yeah, just overall, like studying for stuff I'm not interested in, and then the very unnatural state of testing, because like you said, it's like a computer center. So there's like cubicled computers, and it's like no phone, no like paper, nothing can go in with you. Like they like pat you down. It's like I don't know what you think I'm bringing in there, but I don't think there's any tech that's going to help me pass this.
No, that's what in the bar exam, I swear, they were like examining my bag of grapes and my peanut butter and jelly up and close. And I was like, what's going to be in there that's going to make me cheat?
I think you'd be a better attorney if you could cheat with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
You would be a phenomenal attorney.
Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, like, I also like just studying wasn't my thing. And in order to be able to take the test, I had to pass pre-test to unlock the actual test.
Yeah.
But the pre-tests were all from home. So I was just copying the question, dropping it in Google, and then finding the answer that it gave me in the multiple choice. I just had 2 screens going. So it's important to note that I also didn't study like a responsible human should. Yeah. But you and I, we've known each other solely from Instagram. Like, never seen this woman in person. She looks like how I expected she would look.
I guess that's good.
Only known each other from Instagram, which is crazy that a social media platform brought us to where we are today. But we've been linked up on the gram for probably 10 years or so at this point. And at one point, I remember asking you, like, how does this even happen? Like, why are we even friends? Like, how did you ever even hear me? And you told me, like, do you remember, like, how this happened or, like, the answer you told me?
Oh, my God, I remember this. Yes, so Mrs. Kasperwitz.
She got a name even. Okay,
I don't think you recognized her name.
No, I still don't, yeah.
Yeah.
So she might have been married since.
Maybe she got married.
Yeah.
But she was my 7th grade English teacher, and I remember during like the poetry unit, she was telling us, oh, one of my past students is like a rapper now. He went here, and so we all were freaking out, and we like found you on Facebook and Instagram, like a bunch of stalkers. We were like, we want to be like friends with the rapper from Maryvale.
She made me sound a lot more legit than I was. Which I appreciate.
No,
you send that teacher some flowers or something.
You do.
Nice. Yeah, that's. It's crazy to think that like that happened in a classroom, like a decade plus ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, more than probably.
We stay linked up on socials all this time. And now for the first time, here we are, and you drove to Niagara Falls. Like, I hope he's not just AI. Like, showed up here, and here we are. That's truly crazy. Like, to think that all that fell into place for you to be here today. It's super wild.
I'll sound like I'm dating the both of us, but I think we definitely became friends on social media before AI was a thing. So
yeah, you're right. And it's okay if you date me. I'm comfortable in my age right now. I feel like times have changed so much that like 30 is 20, 40 is 30. Like, I think that's where we are.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, like, I'm not, like, I don't like who I was if you take me back 10 years, I don't like who I was when I was 26.
I wouldn't like myself 10 years ago either. I don't think I liked myself like 2 years ago.
All right, well, cheers to the evolution, you know? It's part of being a human, though, you know? Years go by, you level up, and I think, you know, because I just talked about this maybe even last night with somebody, and it's like, it's okay to not like who you were and not be proud of shit you did, but you have to have the awareness and the vulnerability to like open yourself up to that. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. And like nobody should be like, a lot of people say like, oh, I never changed. Like, I'm still me. It's like, I don't think that's a brag you think it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like if over a 10-year span, like you should be a whole different human, you know? I
agree.
Yeah. So in addition to that, further, come to find out, your brother is Mark Cross.
Yes, Junior.
Mark Cross, please say the JR. I grew up playing basketball with Mark. I loved him, like literally loved this man. Like when I'm early teen or even younger than that, this is like my role model. And I didn't even put these pieces together or ever think about it until I seen you post with him one day on IG. And from there, I was like, OMG, they are both crosses. This checks out and makes sense. And he just went by one name. I never knew him from like school or anywhere else. Like he was older than me, but I just knew him from the basketball court, and he only went by one name, like Prince. He was Cross, and it was a hard nickname too, you know, because it was like the crossover. But he was taller than everybody, taller than me. He's probably like 6'4", 6'5". He's a big boy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And because of his height, and of course some athletic ability sprinkled in there, I don't want to just credit his height solely, but he could dunk, and which essentially made you a celebrity amongst kids if you can dunk a basketball, right? But he could shoot also, so he was an all-around player. And during this era of my life, he's probably the best basketball player that I seen play. So now, NBA 2K at the time, well now NBA 2K is like the premier basketball video game, really the only basketball video game. But at the time I'm telling you about, this playground era, it was NBA Live, right? EA Sports, NBA Live. And when we'd always play outside, it was always at Inezi Vane, off Patrick and Cheektowaga.
I'm not sure I know where that is.
Okay, so by Wegmans on Dick Road, like behind that.
Okay.
Right, so we called it the liquor courts because Inezi. Do you want to go to Inezi Vane? Is weird, but there was a liquor store right in front of it, and this was like the liquor store's backyard. So its name kind of became the liquor courts, and that was kind of my sandlot and where I spent my childhood. But I was obsessed with basketball, like obsessed. I would play literally all day in the summer. I would like set an alarm clock to get up and go, and I would just like come home to like eat and drink, and then I would go back and just ride my bike. But that was my day. And then at night, I would play NBA Live on the PlayStation, basketball. So I'd play basketball in person day, basketball on PlayStation at night. And like I said, to preface this, I was really obsessed with just this game. So one day, or one night, I custom created a whole team on NBA Live, and I named them the Liquor Courts. Like that was the team. And I made the best players from the playground. So I one time created your brother on a video game. You're probably thinking, wow, what a weirdo. And I agree with my whole heart. So Mark, if you're listening, you're a good starting NBA player. Congrats on that. And thank you for your service. And thanks for the memories, right? So yeah, that's my Mark Cross story. And it was truly insane when I finally seen you post this, and I was like, this all came together like in one quick view. I think I messaged you about it right away. Like, is that your brother, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, crazy. So tell me about your family a little bit, and it's okay if you cry. It's been a raw few days for me as well, as you could probably imagine. I'll cry with you, all right? But it's 2021. I imagine you're at Syracuse at the time. Are you?
I moved to Syracuse in August that year, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
2021, you lose your grandma.
Yes.
What did she mean to you, and what effect did she have on your success?
So I'll preface it by saying I unfortunately lost my mom and my grandma that year. And so 2021, we were like still, I would say, peak COVID. So that made it hard because we weren't allowed to, really go and see anyone or spend much time like up close and personal. And so back in January 2020, it's actually crazy. I'll like never forget this. I'd had to take the LSAT a few times, the law school admission test.
Yeah.
And the final time I took it was in January 2020, January 13th. And I remember I was taking it at UB, and it was like a 12:30 test time. And I was like upstairs getting ready, and my parents were like, Carly, we're like going to the grocery store or something. And it was weird because they're always the type of people, like wish me luck. And I thought it was so weird because I was like, why did they not wish me luck?
Right.
And that day, of course, they didn't tell me because I was going into an important test. But that day, my mom went into the emergency room. I think she had like these problems with her veins in her legs, and when she went for like a regular checkup for that, they discussed like headaches she was having, and so to make a long story short, they told her to go to the emergency room. When she went, she had to have emergency brain surgery. We found out she had a very rare form of, it's called poorly differentiated neuroendocrine carcinoma, but in short, she had lung cancer, and it just traveled to her brain, it traveled to her stomach, like all of her organs essentially. So that happened in January 2020, and she put up a good fight. She was around a lot longer than they told her to like expect to be around.
Yeah.
And my grandma had already been diagnosed with 3 different forms of cancer that she had been fighting for, I want to say, close to a decade. She was going to Roswell for years, and my mom always went with her to every single appointment, and that was like a very heartbreaking thing for my grandma, because she was like, all this time she was sitting beside me while I was getting my treatment. She needed it herself. She was so selflessly there with me, and we didn't even know.
Yeah.
But my mom ultimately passed in March of 2021, and then my grandma, it was 3 months and 6 days later in June 2021. So it was just like constant, constant
and
blows.
COVID as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. What a roller coaster, first of all, that must have been. It sounds like they are gigantic pieces of your story, of your why.
They absolutely, just as women in that time period, they're both fascinating people, but my grandma specifically, she was born in what they call the Holler in like the mountains in Kentucky in 1936, and she was the eldest of 18 children, and so she was raising babies while she was a baby. But yeah, they're 2 women who sacrificed a lot for their own lives and their own kids to have better, and I think that's what carried me through and gave me the strength to succeed for sure. I was considering not even starting law school that year. I was like, I should take time to grieve and maybe just like get a job, make some money before I go. But I was like, if I don't do it now, I truly don't know that I ever will. And in the back of my mind, I was like, they would both be so angry at me right now. They'd be like, what are you doing? You just got into like these different law schools. Like go to one and do what you want to do. Like don't let us hold you back, essentially. So I went, and somehow I got out of it. I graduated. So I'm very happy that I did. And I'm very thankful for the sacrifices that they made for me.
Yeah. Wow. This, before even mentioning that, like, it's such a mountain to have climbed, and when you add that in, it becomes like, it's like a Mount Everest story, like what you did. It's nuts. It's really fucking nuts.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to be proud of you, eh? Nuts.
Yes.
I don't even know what to tell you, kid. Like, they walk with you, eh? All right. I'll get you off that. I'll get myself off it because I'm fighting back tears here. Thank you so much for sharing that. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to share that with us. I want to give you a hug right now, but the staff's in my ear. Don't mess up the mic, so wait till after the show.
Okay.
All right. Transitioning to something, that's not going to make me cry. Transitioning to science now, okay?
Okay. Not good at science, but
all right.
I'm
Well,
with
yeah,
you.
this is. Wait till you hear this one. Fruity Pebbles is a second tier cereal, and it is second tier only because of the cleanup. So it's delicious. So it's delicious and refreshing enough to be tier 1, but no one is going to ever eat every single little piece that's in that bowl. It actually might be impossible. Especially when you have kids, right? When they're done, I've still got a bowl with 20 soggy pieces floating in milk to deal with. So 2-part question, obviously, naturally, when you talk Fruity Pebbles, yeah, it's got to come down to 2 questions. How do you deal with these leftover pieces, first of all? And what can Fruity Pebbles do to evolve into that first tier cereal? Do you think they need to make the pieces bigger, or what do you think is a solution here?
Maybe making the pieces bigger would help for sure. But I don't know that I would enjoy extra large fruity Pebbles.
True.
I feel like part of the
A
goodness.
little rough on the mouth, right?
Yes.
Yeah. A little rough on the mouth. All right. Well, science appreciates your feedback, I'm sure. So being in a courtroom, for me, I'm comfortable, I'm confident, but also, of course, there's some anxiety for me incorporated with that. Like I just had to go to court, and for the days leading up to it, I was writing in notes on my phone pertaining to what I wanted to present. And then now, as a result, like even opening my notes app, like now gives me anxiety because I know those court notes are in there and I'm going to see them and it's going to re-trigger the anxiety of having been in court. So it's like, to these notes, it's like, go away until the next time I need you. Side note on the back of that. So, for me anyway, what I think is you can't have your phone in court, or you can maybe if you're like an attorney. But for me, last time I went in, they told me like, put it away, turn it off. So I wanted to have like paper notes. Obviously, I wanted to have some notes. So I stopped on my way to court at Office Max to print the notes. And I was like, oh, look at you, prepared, ready to roll. I get to court and I open them up and I printed the wrong document.
Oh, goodness.
So I had no notes. It's all right, though. It's all right. So what are your emotions around being in court, and what kind of effect would you say that, and not only that, but like fighting for the most important things in people's lives in most cases, like that's a huge burden to carry, like on your back, like for somebody to ask you to fight for their money or their kid or their house or their whatever it may be. It's just such intense things. I guess what kind of effect does that have on you personally?
So it's definitely one of like the most talked about things, because I think mental health within the community of lawyers in general is a problem. You always hear of lawyers dealing with substance abuse issues and just like general depression issues, and it's because how do you do your job without taking that kind of stuff home, essentially? It's easier said than done. You say, close the book when you log off, like that's your life, but
easier
it's
said than
not
done, right?
You
Close the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. People say that about my work, and I'm just in sales. So to say that about close fighting for their child,
right?
That's
not a 9 to 5 kind of thing. That's
right.
That's 24 hours on the clock that you really have to worry about some of those things. And
for sure,
I've not, as an intern, I haven't experienced the brunt of what I'm sure I will in the future. But
yeah,
seeing like some superiors or my supervisors live that lifestyle, it's something to take into account. When you're figuring out like what place you want to go to in the future for your career. I know beforehand we were talking about, unfortunately, 9/11. I remember an attorney that came to Syracuse was telling us a story of how he knew he was in the wrong place because he was like at his first year associate orientation in New York City at one of the big law firms down there on 9/11, and I guess they were far enough away from it. Like, I don't know that they were in Manhattan, but he was far enough away where they were expected to stay for orientation while all of that was happening, probably, just like a few miles away.
Yeah.
And I don't think he ultimately ended up staying there very long because he was like clocked that that's the kind of environment, like that's the kind of place that he signed up to work for.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen and heard stories like that, like people that were supposed to be on that flight and like missed their flight, like running late. Yeah, it's really crazy how different, people's lives could be based on what happened that day. But back to what I was saying, like with the stress and pressure you guys deal with, like I'm sure like once a client signs in with you, like they don't adhere. Like, sure, you could protect yourself with it, but if something happens, if they're fighting this person and your hours are 9 to 5, but something happens in their life at 9 p.m., like I'm sure you're getting an email. You know what I mean? Like, and at the same time, like I'm sure they're like salty if you don't answer it right away. But yeah, I mean, like you have no choice but to have those boundaries. But given all that, you guys should make it so you're not cheap. If you haven't already.
Some of the firms around here do, and they make sure.
Yeah, I'm just teasing. I can't think of many comparative jobs outside of maybe like a surgical doctor where like just stepping away to take care of yourself, your mental health is as important as that. is that something that's granted to you guys? Like, are there laws around that, or does it fluctuate firm by firm? But like, you talked about how crushing it could be on mental health. Like, what's in place there for you guys to be protected?
I think it's something that needs severe reform, if you will. I know, like, certain internships I had, there would be, like, call numbers if, like, an attorney or it was probably available to the interns as well, but, like, essentially a crisis phone number. But I don't know that all places even offer that or pay for that, because I assume, like, they would have to pay for it in some capacity. But I think it's a big problem. Like, even in law school, certain professors would include mental health days along with excused absence days.
Yeah.
Some didn't.
That's awesome.
That was
Yeah.
their prerogative. But I think it's something that needs, like I said, severe reform. Because I feel like a lot of places will dangle it in front of you, like, oh, we'll be accepting of that, like accepting as a mental health day as a sick day, whereas I feel like they say that, but it's not the reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I very much lean in the direction you are. Like, when my daughter doesn't want to go to school, maybe it's like once a quarter or something. But yeah, like, take a day off. Like, I don't give a shit. You're not missing. What are you missing? Like, 9 times 6. Like,
I do remember junior year at Maryville, I had, I guess, too many absences, like enough where they mailed a letter home to my parents, and I'll never forget it because the junior year was, I had good grades, like always, but junior
Yeah, I would
year
assume
I
so.
had like the best grades, and I thought it was hysterical that I was like, you guys are saying I have an attendance problem, but I'm on like the high honor roll.
yeah, right. Yeah, you need them. And like, yeah, my job, we get like accumulating vacation time, accumulating sick time, and it's just like, use as you please. And like, very rarely have I ever actually been like physically sick to the point I didn't want to work. It's just like, I don't feel like working today, so I'm not. And like, that's how it should be, right? Like, I don't need to have like an actual physical, like, on paper documented illness. Like, I just don't feel like doing this today. You know what I mean? And
I remember some places, like restaurants that I worked at in like high school and college, like even if you were going on a family vacation or something, they'd be like, okay, like where, when, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is a
large get out of my
restaurant.
face. Yeah, a very large get out of my face. Yeah, yeah, I hear you 100%. But yeah, when I was in court yesterday morning, I know I mentioned it to you. I was dealing with a really weird emotions leaving there, like a large amount of empathy, which is, I'm not saying I'm not an empathetic person, but I'm saying like I felt it a lot more like leaving there. And it felt like my mind, my body was on like a roller coaster. Because you just not only do you see your own circumstance, but you see what everybody else there is dealing with, and sure, you don't know the intricacies of their case or what they're fighting, but just feel empathetic. Like, I wish you all well, either side. Like, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Like getting out of the elevator. Like, good luck in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, in a result, I hopped on Google and I searched, what does God say about empathy? And what a good Christian. I use Google and not the Bible. Siri, what would Jesus think about this? Or, like, Alexa, does God even like me? So what a time to be alive. But yeah, I mean, court is just, it's such a weird concept to me, right? Because like, it definitely has its place. Don't get me wrong, but there's two people that were there, right? Party A and Party B. But those two people who were there commissioned two people who weren't there, two different people. And then those two people who weren't there present the story to a third party who also wasn't there. And then those three people decides what happened at that place they weren't at. So yeah, it's just when you step back and look at it,
Yeah,
it's
when
like,
you put it like
it's
that,
so
it's
weird.
like-
Yeah, but it has its place, of course, because, and I get it, like, right? Like, you guys are more there for what can and cannot be presented, the intricacies that, the average Joe doesn't know, and not everyone could talk, right? Like, there's a lot of introverted people, people that can't present their case.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it definitely has its purpose, but it's just funny to me when you think about like how wild it actually is. So you just go there and it's like, somebody plays God on your life, and it's it's a weird environment, but yeah.
We've talked about that in law school, like in the case of juries, because whether it's a civil or a criminal case, say it's a criminal case and someone could be going away for 25 years or life or something. One jury might find you guilty, one might find you not guilty. And obviously it's like the weighing, like the bearing of the evidence, but it's like crazy to think about that. It's like if you had a different pool of jurors, maybe you would be a free person.
So
which
similar.
it's crazy to think about, but that's our...
Which 10 strangers are going to dictate if I spend 25 years in a cage is nuts. Is freaking nuts. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. It really is it's as wild of like of an occupation, a way to spend your life as there is. But I mean, when you put all that in perspective, like there's a reason why it's so hard to get into and so well compensated. I'd like to think based on what I've had to pay people. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've talked a lot about, your personal life. As you know, as you mentioned how we linked up, I'm in the music space. Mac Miller is the best rapper ever. Do you find this to be true to the best of your knowledge? Do you find this to be a lie, or do you think that's hearsay?
It's true to the best of my knowledge.
Ooh, okay, Mac, I see you. What does Mac mean to you? What effect has you've been through? You've been through a whirlwind. Like you've had a hell of a life already at such a young age. What effect has his music had on your life?
So I think I got into him, I want to say around like 2011 or 2012. And I remember being on vacation in Florida with my family and it just popping up on something like YouTube. And it actually was his song, Donald Trump. I'm sure you know that one.
Yeah, Donald Trump tried to sue him. And I think he won. This is true.
Trump won?
This is truth. Yeah, I think he basically made the argument that I never gave him permission to use my name, my likeness. And he sued him, and I think he won.
Wow.
I know it happened. I just don't know what the legality of it was.
I'm going to look into that
That'd
when
be
I
your
leave
space.
here.
Yeah, you can postpartum defend Mac in this case and reopen it, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to write an op-ed on that.
There you go.
But, my first tattoo, I don't have many yet, but my first tattoo is for Mac Miller.
No kidding. What is it? Tell us.
It's the word remember, and the two M's are capitalized, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but
You smoked that one, kid.
It was taken from someone, of his friends. She's a singer. I'm gonna butcher her name. I don't know how to pronounce it, but she has a beautiful voice. It's Josma, I think is how you pronounce it. She's like R&B adjacent, I would say.
Sure.
But I saw that she got that tattoo, and I was like, what a beautiful way to commemorate him. Like, he's my favorite musical artist. I'm going to do that. And it was also, like, his music label was called Remember Music, but the first three letters were capitalized, REM, because one of his friends that had passed away, like, that was his initials. So I think calling his music label that was his way to commemorate his friend. Yeah. So that's why I got the tattoo.
Do you think a P and an A will ever make its way into any of your tattoos?
You never know.
Okay. I'll keep working. Rank your top 3 Mac Miller albums, please.
Oh, that's so difficult. I would say number 1 has to be Watching Movies with the Sound Off, and I feel like that's kind of a hot take. It's his 2013 album, but it has the most songs that I like hold special to my heart.
Exactly, relatability.
I would say 2. Maybe this is like cheating because it's not a real album, but it's
it counts.
A mixtape.
EPs,
okay, yeah.
Throw them in there. Yeah.
Faces, obviously. That's got some bangers. It's also got some. I would say it's got my favorite Mac Miller song of all time, Colors and Shapes. Okay. Are you familiar?
I'm not. Maybe if I played it.
It's very deep.
Yeah, most of his, I mean, especially towards the back end of his life, like most of his stuff got there.
I feel like that's why he didn't get a lot of radio play, but it's like, you guys should be listening to what he has to say. He's a genius. It'd be crazy to know like what he would be doing now if he was still around.
Yeah.
And then I would say 3, I know it's like short and sweet, but The Divine Feminine, I think a lot of people disrespected that album, and it was like years ahead of its time. Imagine if that album came out in 2024.
He was so much more, and not to discredit anybody by any means, but he was so much more like artistic and involved in his music than I feel like a lot of rappers are. And I feel like rapper kind of boxes him in because he was very involved in the production. Mm-hmm. He would, he did evolve into singing. Like, you know, it wasn't Whitney Houston singing, but like he changed into like melodic rap. So I don't have the insight that you have into his albums. Like, I'm not on the deep cuts, although I love them and listen and watch them regularly. But I've never really dove into his albums. For me, there's two. Kids, far and away, is number one for me. And that's the songs, the production, the colors, like just its presentation. But I think when we associate music with memories in our life, and that's exactly what that album is for me, I think that's what makes it special. And for me, I can just vividly remember the time in my life associated with that album or mixtape, like a bookmark. And when I play those songs, it transports me back, you know, to those times of my life, and it truly works like magic. So that's my number one, far and away. And then it's like, for me, number two is also far and away. And I'm not saying this is the accurate ranking. I'm just saying for me personally, this is how I feel. But I think it's called Swimming Pools. Maybe. Is a white cover, him sitting with bare feet, swimming.
Yeah.
That album, it's 2009 is on there.
Yes, that's a great song.
Yeah, of course it is. The Tiny Desk performance of that is
unbelievable.
Absolutely, like he is so involved. He believes, like his soul is just, you know, it's just out there, and it's So I love those two albums, and yeah, that performance, those songs. But I've had my ups and downs with Mac. Mac's never heard of me. We haven't had ups and downs. I've had self-conflicts. First, I loved him. Then I made fun of him.
What'd you make fun of him for?
Oh, I called his music Kids Bop because I thought it was a little immature. You know, I made a tweet and everything. Like, Mac Miller's Kids Bop album drops today on one of his album release dates. That wasn't nice. And now, of course, I'd like to think you can tell I love him again. But that was just that. It was hate. And he was doing all the things that I wanted to be doing. He was a white rapper from Pittsburgh who was younger than me, and he had made it. And, you know, I'm proud to say, and we talked about this a little already, like, I've grown up and matured enough that I can admit that. And that's all that was, right? I didn't actually hate him. His music wasn't bad. I just had an internal struggle with jealousy and, you know, you are where I want to be. And I was like resentful because it was him and not me. That's all that was. But that's a terrible energy to have, to hate what you want, what you aspire to be, what you want to become. And it should very much be the opposite, right? You should be magnetic. You should be polarizing to the things you want to become, and, you know, use it as roadmaps. Like, how did you get there? Let me retrace the steps. But I was in an envious state. And that's ugly. You know, I'm here to tell you that was ugly. So
it is funny that you say you called it Kids Bop, because I do remember the song off Kids called Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza, and when I was playing it one time, my friend was like, "Why are we listening to a song called Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza?" And I was like, "You don't understand. It's amazing."
Yeah. What's the one that's always on the internet that's memed from Kids Bop? Miss Jackson. Are you aware of this? Have you seen it?
A Kids Bop song?
It's a little boy does Outcasts. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. And just are you aware of what Miss Jackson is by Outkast?
No,
like, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson.
No.
You're not familiar with this song?
I know Hey Ya.
Yeah, you would be if you heard it. There's no way you could be who I thought you were. And not know
I
this
have
song.
to have heard it. Maybe
You
I just don't know
100%
the
have.
name.
You 100% have. But yeah, there's a Kids Bop version in there, and it's just super wild because it's like a little boy with a mushroom cut singing about how he wronged some woman's daughter. Like,
What's a mushroom cut?
Oh man, you're super young, eh?
I know what a bowl cut is.
Rich, you know what a mushroom cut is? Yeah, see? So a bowl cut is pretty accurate, but it sits like a mushroom. Like, it's long, and then it's buzzed around that, but it sits like if my bangs were down and like this long, kind of like a bowl cut, but it was buzzed underneath it.
I have a lot of things to Google after.
So it's shaped a mushroom, yeah. Maybe we can pull a picture of a mushroom cut and show the fine folks at home. Oh man, but yeah, I appreciate Mac because he was himself from the jump, and over time he only evolved deeper and deeper into himself, and I feel like I'm on a similar journey, both musically and in my everyday life. I feel like you should never stop. Your self-discovery and your self-evolution.
I agree.
election season knocking on the door, November. Do you care if you're on social media, you're scrolling? Do you care if you disagree with something someone posts on social media? Like, granted, it's not like super offensive or like ignorant, but if someone is posting about a party you disagree with or policies you disagree with, do you take any action? Like, do you hit unfollow, or do you just keep it pushing? It is what it is.
No, yeah, if it's not something like egregious and it's just, maybe like a basic political opinion or whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't unfollow. I know there's people that do,
Yeah.
and, to each their own.
Yeah.
But I think, like, we should sort of, like, welcome discussion on differing opinions, if that makes sense.
Wise beyond your years. It's very well said. I have a friend. It's like his identity is his political affiliation. Mm-hmm. And it's like... it's the extent of what he's posted about for as long as I've known him. And then, like, even when we go out to eat or we get beers, like, it's the extent of the conversation. And, yeah, I mean, and, like, he'll post about, like, oh, thin in the herd today. Like, people have unfollowed. And it's like, you can, like, I don't know that you're making any type of difference by...
Right.
You
It's
know
also
what I
an
mean? You know what I
interesting
mean?
take because it's like we have Party A and Party B essentially in America. Like
Yeah.
one or the other is winning and running the country.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does someone identify with every single
Yeah.
like thing about their platform?
Yeah.
I'm like, I think we should have like 200 parties for all I'm concerned.
just-
Like, how do you like black and white, box A, box B? I don't agree with
Exactly. Red versus blue? Like, this
No.
is gang wars? Like, the donkey versus the elephant? Like, what are we talking about? How do you just put every possible opinion you can have and just have two choices? And not only that, but they have to fall under the umbrella of choice A or choice B.
Right.
Like, they can't be like an alternative. Yeah, having only two people to choose from in and of itself is insanity.
It
Like,
is.
how that's existed. But after the last debate, I seen this video was trending, and it was like how presidents, from A and B used to talk to each other. It was like it was from another planet.
We may have seen the same video.
It was just like, I don't want to, like, they would literally say, like, I don't want to disparage him as a man or a human being, but I disagree with his ideas. Either one of us are going to do what's best for the country.
Right.
If an American seen that, they'd be like, this is not our country's representatives. Like, it's just, the apple has fallen so far from the tree. Like,
It's apples to oranges now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a mudslinging contest, Yeah. It's just propaganda A versus propaganda B. And yeah, what's best for me and my friends opposed to like a country.
It's
Wild.
true.
Yeah. I think I'm at a point now where I'm like, there's almost 8 billion people in the world. It would be weird if we all just agreed, and super un-American if we all just agreed. So do I read things where I'm like, wow, you're a dumbass? Yes, every day. Literally every day.
Me too.
But I don't dare comment, right? Because that's the worst thing you could do, right? It's just like poking the bear that you say would beat the gorilla. It's like poking the bear. So yeah, I mean, I'm very much in the space if I just keep it moving. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. One of my last questions for you here, and we'll get you out of here. Long-term vision for you. You've done so much in such like it probably felt like a lifetime to you, but like like you pointed out earlier, like you're still like even to me, like you're a freaking child. We just want to make sure you get home safe today. But long-term vision. I imagine you've checked quite a few boxes already in the life goals category. But what is the next 5 to 10 years of your life? What does that look like for you? Are you professionally focused? Do you want your own family? Obviously you want to pass your exam? Do you want your own firm eventually? Like what are you building towards?
In terms of like 5 to 10 years, I think my mindset right now is work hard while I'm young and able. Because, God forbid, like something happens, you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But at the same time, I realize, like after going into law school, that I've selected a career that's not going to give me a lot of free time, and that sort of doesn't mesh well with my like being super earnest to travel, because I haven't been outside of the US and Canada, and I really, really have a strong urge to see like as many different places as I can. So I think my biggest like issue going forward is going to be like figuring out how to do that, like how to take time off like enough to do what I want to do in that aspect. I've thought about family too. I go back and forth with it. I'm like, sometimes I just want to be a childless cat lady. I really do, because that's what makes me happy. But like I said, I had an amazing mom and an amazing grandmother, and they sacrificed a lot for me, and I would want to make sure that I'm in the space to do the same if I ever have kids.
I feel like they're with us. I feel like that's why this chair is here. Maybe Grandma's sitting on Mom's lap, but I feel like they're with us today. When you,
They are.
when
They're
you,
always with me.
when you talk about like having the free time, I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I don't know the intricacies of how like a law firm runs, but isn't it essentially like being like an independent contractor kind of, where you're booking your own calendar and you can kind of block off what you want to block off and set, the only real restrictions are the ones you set, right? Is that kind of how it works?
I think, yeah, being like a younger associate at the firm, they'll essentially give me my work, and, I'll do what needs to be done at whatever time. But I think the beauty of where I'm at now is they really seem to encourage work-life balance, and that really can't be said about
It's a sign of a great
lot
employer.
of places.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. Incredible, Carly. You're a hell of a woman. Never had any person I've known firsthand in my life who's done what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
Still got much more to go. So congratulations. Happy for you. Proud of you. Thank you for coming through today, being a part of this journey, being a part of this crazy thing we call the Great Disruptor podcast. For those of you who are watching, subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you next time. Paul Athoe, Carly Cross, the big brain. Leave. I originally wrote peace and it autocorrected to leave, so leave. Peace.